I'm buying a Portsmouth, New Hampshire multifamily. Never thought I'd actually say that, but here we are. So this is actually a 4-unit that was listed on the market about like one or 2 months ago in the middle of the summer of 2026. And I happened to be one of the people that toured it. I liked it. I thought it was a decent project. It was a little expensive on the market. I think they listed it at like 1.2 million. And I can tell you right now, we are not getting it for that. I offered much less and we're under contract, which is great. So I ended up liking this project. I've actually driven by this like numerous times getting into Portsmouth. And you can see here, like kind of walking on the outside, there's some exterior work that needs to be worked on. So I figured I'd give you guys a video about kind of things that I'm looking at. So the first thing I noticed walking this place was that it's massive and it was definitely pieced together over time. I saw some pretty much exterior work all around that needs to be fixed. I noticed that the boards were rotted, the soles were rotted, this deck is completely gone. And so I've kind of just sat here with a mental checklist of saying, okay, I got to do all the siding. It's like a 4,000 square foot building. So I gotta see what's going on. And then I walked into the unit and I was like, wow, this is pretty nice. One problem, I'm 6 feet and my head almost hit the ceiling. So we were kind of thinking about what to do. But honestly, this kitchen looked pretty nice. I mean, I see a lot of pretty dumpy multifamilies, but this looked really good. I thought the kitchen was very presentable. And then I was just kind of taking a looking around. I'm always checking out the plumbing, just looking underneath, you know, what do we got here? That had like a trash, like a garbage grader underneath. So it is what it is. But I kind of looked around and I said, man, this place has a little character. I got the wallpaper. This is kind of a weird bathroom. Like somebody must have lived here that was elderly at one point. They made a half bath here and there's a wall to the left that I was like, oh, that's weird. No, why they do this? The shower's right here. Didn't really make sense to me, but whatever. I would have just rotated it, called it a day. But, you know, alas, hey, full bathroom. That's a win, first floor. But, I mean, look at these hardwood floors. Look at these windows, the color, the fireplaces. This place would have been awesome in its heyday. And, I mean, it still looks pretty great now. You know, you got the back staircase there. Another big room, closet space. You got the built-ins. You know, there's some old carpet. I bet the carpet underneath, if I pull that up, I don't think I even did that at the time, would probably have hardwood floor underneath it because people did that back in the day. They carpeted over hardwood floor. Thank you for those of you that did that. But I'm just kind of checking out the quirkiness of the place. It's cute. I like the exposed beams. Looks nice. All the fireplaces are pretty unique. And so this is just me walking around. I'm just kind of doing my thing. I do this every time just to kind of check myself on what I'm looking at. All the storage space that these places have to offer. The thing I'm thinking of the whole time is like, okay, if I lived here, like, what would I want to do? And, you know, I think of that for tenants too. Like, what are things that would be nice? I kept going back to this bathroom because I just was like, wait, why didn't they just put a door here? That doesn't make any sense. And I was pretty fixated on that, obviously. So, you know, even the wallpaper being original, I like that. Some of it's original, some of it's obviously newer, but I kind of like the design of there. You know, checking out the electrical outlets, just kind of poking around, looking, you know, I'm sure there's probably some knob and tube that I have to be conscious of in the walls. And, you know, just getting an idea and sit and layout for the building. And so one thing I was figuring out was, oh, there's a stairway up here. Now, I'm a pretty big guy. I got wide shoulders, and I kept saying, like, man, I have to, like, kind of turn my shoulders to get up here. It's a little strange, but I'll take a look. And, I mean, you can see even walking up with the camera, like, look at that tiny doorway. I felt like I was in Europe with, like, the older homes. And then I got upstairs, and I was like, whoa, this place is cool. But the ceilings, look at how short those ceilings are. Those door frames are, like, six feet, maybe 6'2". And, like, my head is almost hitting. And I was a little kind of taken aback for a second as to kind of wanting to do. You know, the floor is here, the ceiling, we got to make sure we take care of that. This unit's going to need some love. I mean, we got to figure out what's going to go on there with the height. And then I kind of opened up to this upstairs and I said, okay, like this one unit is massive. And I knew it was. And I mean, there's that staircase from downstairs. We were kind of walking and I kept going upstairs and I was like, man, this place eventually is going to end, right? And nope, it kept going. So there's another bathroom up here. You know, kitchen, it needs some work. The wallpaper's cool. I'd like to keep that. And it's funny kind of when you walk these buildings, they have so much character. There was families that lived here at some point. I don't know the history of this building 100%, but I'm sure there's a lot that could say a lot. And, you know, if walls could talk is the thing I was talking about. And I looked up here, oh, can I finish this space? Nah, this is more storage. I was actually looking for knob and tube or, you know, looking where the roof was. If, you know, the plywood's actually spread apart, but it hasn't. So, which is good. That looked okay. It does need new shingles. Spiral staircase is pretty timeless to me. It's something that goes to old England homes. I feel like there's a lot of charm that gets involved. That's the front door that faces the street. We're going to have to add some curb appeal there for the city, trying to show them what's going on. But again, I mean, honestly, this unit looked really good. And so this is one of the units that I saw, and I thought it was, you know, done well. This old fireplace is cool. I mean, you got the double fireplace piece where you can kind of throw some wood in there to store. It's also a cooking apparatus, essentially. So really cool. Honestly, charming place to see is like the only word that I can think of that would really describe this place. And it's true. It is quintessential charming. And yeah, it was a fun tour. I mean, it being cut up a little bit besides the carpet, besides all that, it is what it is. Now, this is the fun part. We have to go to the basement. This is actually where like the money's made. And so I actually normally just kind of skip the units most of the time. And I just go right to the basement because I'm like, show me your secrets. And there's this fun little like wall that's right there where the stairs are. So it's kind of a hop and a skip. But when I'm looking basements, I'm always looking, it's the big things: plumbing, electrical, what's the framing look like? Is it dirt? I'm looking at the water lines here, checking this out. There's some old new, you can see the old knob and tube right there. So obviously there's some in the house. You know, I'm checking out, those are old beetle holes actually from back in the day. Pretty invasive beetles that would go through and carve in. I mean, a lot of homes have that damage in New England at this point. I didn't see anything live. But again, I'm not a pest expert, so it's good to look. I'm just checking out, there's some water there from the furnace. I'm sure they turned that thing off and it just probably leaked it. Like all the gaskets on the inside loosened up. So my brain at that time is going, okay, like, do I need a new furnace? Checking out the old systems here, the expansion tanks that are occurring, the copper piping. I'm checking. It's cool to see these old logs. You can have an idea of like what's actually been done to this thing. So honestly, most of the time, like instead of saving the system, I'm just like, just rip it out and replace it. It's fine. You know, just put it towards the cost of business. It is what it is. But again, checking, you're going through plumbing. You guys are seeing like basically the dark and scary, like going in a basement. But this is, I'm completely like accustomed to this. And you know, now I'm on from plumbing. I went to the electrical, so I'm checking out the panels. You know, do we need to change these out? And I think the plan is to actually change them out. And looking at like, okay, like, is this building actually wired for a 4-family? Because of the tax card it is. So I'm checking out like support columns, you know, anything bowing out. It's really common. I'll see there's no footings in place. This one at least has footings. But, you know, the first thing I noticed was these columns aren't enough. I can see like a tiny bit of sagging occurring, or I can see some, that looks like bent. I mean, you can see it literally like it's curved. You got the OG cast iron pipe. I mean, these things eventually like they'll seize up a little bit and do this and get tiny and tiny. But I was just kind of checking out, what's this rusting looking like? So I've seen some where you can grab the cast iron and do this, and honestly, they'll just explode. Checking that out. I mean, look at this wood rot that I'm putting my finger on. So I'm checking things like that. You know, that's not a great sign for me. And so we're basically going to have to figure out some massive reinforcement going on there for the house. Looking at the cast iron condensation there, see what's going on. I want to go, there's another side of the basement. You know, what's going on here? And so kind of peeking my head around. I'm looking, I'm just checking out things. And again, this is only one unit in the basement that I've toured so far. And there's a lot that you can kind of take in. It's really important to look at the big systems. You got the roof, the siding, you got electrical, plumbing, the foundational support. There's things that I'm constantly thinking about when I'm walking these, and all my brain is doing is just adding numbers of like, okay, if I need a new furnace, how much is this going to cost? New framing. And we have some great cheat sheets. I'm always happy to share them for anybody that watches. And then I was like, you know what, let me go see the other part of the basement. And so this is actually the other side I was looking at. And so I went to a different part of the entrance and I said, oh, there's a lot of PVC here. People are really living here. The chimney looked fine, didn't look compromised, but I was pumped to see the PVC. I didn't really see any more cast iron, which was cool, but you can kind of see here, it's really dark, but I can see these oil tanks. I'm checking underneath if they're rusting. You know, do I have to change these out? What does that look like? I knew this place had oil, was filling in. So honestly, it was cool to see. And this is a fun one. That's just all water. It was super humid, and that basement was just soaking in, which just made me think about the wood that was kind of rotting a little bit. I'm sure it's just moisture over time, but you can kind of see me leaving that little hobbit hole to kind of escape that basement for a second. So it was cool to kind of get in there and see, you know, good to see PVC and amongst other things. You know, we're just checking out some of the cells on the outside. And, you know, at this point now we're looking at the hardscaping. It's Portsmouth. People are going to want a nicer backyard if they can have one. I mean, having a backyard is really nice. So I'm just kind of checking that out. We're looking at like the siding. I mean, you can see that peeling paint. It just is what it is. That's going to be the biggest project. That's where we get to the historic district. They care about the curb appeal, and it makes sense. Portsmouth is kind of like a crowning jewel of the city. And my big thing is, okay, I got to make this place look presentable. Now, the historic district, you cannot vinyl side in Portsmouth, this municipality specifically. Some you can, but I was looking at this like, okay, I need a new roof, new chimneys, new siding. The siding has to get completely stripped and repainted. Those chimneys have to be completely repointed. They're basically falling apart. And if you actually look around the neighborhood, they had these beautiful arches. These didn't, because they fell and broke apart. I saw the electrical before. You know, it had 3 panels. It really should be 4. I don't really know why. But, you know, checking this one out, looking at the exterior, like, man, I'm thinking curb appeal. This is the road people drive into to get into Portsmouth. So I got to make this thing look good. I got to make the front of it really big curb appeal, and it matches kind of the exterior aesthetic of the rest of the city. And so we're going to another unit at this point that I could actually get into. This is again all on like the first walkthrough, kind of taking my time, and I had to crack up because they said, "Oh, the door doesn't open. You have to go through the window." And I remember just laughing. I was like, "Wait, really?" And so, adventures of multifamily. This happens. I just told the agent, "Don't worry about it. I'll hop in." And so I'm a pretty big guy, so I'm looking at this window like, "All right, let's plan my attack." And so I'm making the joke of like, "Hey, I actually fit through that." So kudos to me. So the wood beams again. They supposedly did a big unit turn here. When I say unit turn, it means like taking it from a rougher state and probably, making it better. I wasn't super happy with the quality. Just kind of looking around like, okay, like that's some shoddy insulation work, but it is what it is. This was basically like an affordable studio that would be in the middle of Portsmouth for somebody. And so it's like a kitchenette, you got the oven going on. I didn't really see an exhaust fan there, but I'm like, all right, like this is basically their bedroom. And then you have like this kitchen area with an open fireplace. So kind of interesting. This is really how it goes on tours, guys. This is just me walking, taking a look. I'm excited to show you guys when the whole place is vacant, just walking the whole building. Should be a lot of fun. Stay tuned. Should be a good time.